Greetings, my wonderful humans out there. We have a very important topic to discuss today, and that is an easier way to quit drinking. Now, I've got to throw this in there. If there was just one easier way to quit drinking that made it super crazy easy, we wouldn't have millions of people on the planet struggling desperately with alcoholism uh, to the point that it kills them. And it because it's so devastating. And what I am promising you is that this is the easiest way that I found. And so many people, and I believe many people will be on board who haven't found a solution yet. And I do recommend you try things. And I'm going to go over what the things I tried. But first, I want to let you know that quitting drinking for me was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I went for 8 years, basically from 35 to age of 43. I was so desperately caught in the trap of alcoholism, and if you don't really, and if you haven't, before I got to that point, I always thought, well, alcoholics are just weak. They just, you know, that's pathetic. You need just a little bit of willpower not to drink until something flipped in me. And if I picked up a drink, I would be drinking 24/7. And it was totally mind boggling to me that for the first time in my life, I had absolutely no control over something that was going on in my head. Alcoholism is very real, and I totally get it. And I know that there's a lot of different solutions out there, but I know there's so many of us that are still struggling for a solution. And I just wanted to let you know that for 8 years, I failed at all the things that were out there until I created something new, something different. And when I did, it was pretty much instantaneous. It's been 8 years now, almost nine, and I haven't craved a drink since. It was crazy, and so I want to introduce that to you, and you'll see really quickly. Rather than I was pushed into the 12 steps of AA for many years, and they kept on saying it's going to work, it's going to work, but it didn't, and no matter how hard I wanted it to work. But this strategy, this approach, once you, over the next 10, 15 minutes, you'll understand it and you'll know, hey, this has a high possibility of working for me. So let's get into it, okay? I'm going to share my screen. I've got some serious high-tech graphics going down right now. And here they are. Check it out. I know it's sick. Okay, so let me explain what's going on here. This is how I see like a normal person with the inside of their brain, where, or basically how you would think we would all see ourselves. It's like the inside of our brain, our thoughts and our emotions all belong to us, all are a part of who we are. And not only and that includes all the toxic thoughts and toxic emotions. We don't decide to have them. We don't. I didn't decide to become an addict. I didn't decide to become crazy, have crazy anxiety. I didn't decide to have all these thoughts like you're a piece of shit, you're no good. Like it was just this other voice inside of me that was there, and I call that my crazy. And sorry for if that offends some people, but it was total insanity. While I was sitting, so that's why I've kind of had this duality inside, all that was always inside of me, and that was the problem. Like I wanted nothing more than to quit drinking. But there was something inside of me saying, you're a piece of shit. Go get a drink. You're not good enough. Go get a drink. You haven't done enough with your life. Go get a drink. You are late to the dentist. Go get a drink. Drink, 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 drink. 7,000 times a day. And eventually that voice would always overpower me because willpower is simply a limited resource. It's like a muscle. It will run out. So if there's something screaming at you long enough, uh, you'll give in. It's like torture, right? Like they say that if people are being tortured, eventually they'll give up everything. And I was being tortured by this voice inside of me to get a drink, and I always had to give in. So that was the situation. Okay, now I'm going to throw out there like what to me, and forgive me for those people who love the the 12 steps of AA, because quite frankly, it fails 92% of the time. But there's a lot of people in there that say, no matter what, if you follow these rules, you're going to get sober. There's even a part in the book where it says, um, only those who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves will fail this approach. And one other case, just like if you're like literally insane. Um, so, which I was. So, but here's the way I break it down. They're complex 12 steps. And that is that, okay, in the first step, it says your life has become unmanageable and you can no longer control your ability to drink. And it basically says, in my mind, that read, okay, you're a piece of shit. You can't handle life anymore. And I believed that, right? I didn't believe that there was something in me that was good anymore. I mean, I knew there was something in me that was good, but the more I went in there and said, "I'm Roger, I'm an alcoholic," I felt worse and worse about myself. And when I failed, I felt worse about myself. And okay, but then don't worry, there's hope in the AA program because once you realize that you're a piece of shit and you can't handle your life anymore, then they introduce God. And not making fun of God. I love it. I have a God of my. I was basically an atheist before this, but I came to have a God of my understanding because I had to, because I was going to die if I didn't. But still, this God, once I found my understanding of what God was, this God in the later steps, 6 and 7 ish, God comes in and takes away all your crazy. And you figure out what your crazy is by writing down in steps 4 what they call your inventory, your resentments, your sex desires, which basically can be summarized to all your desires overall, and all your fears. And I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff. And then I found this God, and then this God, I was supposed to make some sort of intergalactic connection with this God, where this God was going to come in and take away all those things. But I always sat there and in my head, drink, 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 drink. Never made it more than 7 months. So I absolutely recommend this program if you believe, or if you were raised in, and I was raised in the church, but the way I was taught to me, it just didn't make any sense. But if you already have a connection with God, then this is totally the route to go. If you feel like you have this internal communique with God, I'm all for it. And God will come in. God will come in and take away all your fears, all your resentments, all your desires, and you'll be free from that voice. I would have. That's where I was trying to get, to be freed from my crazy. But it didn't work, and it doesn't work a whole bunch of the times. So if you have been trying it and it hasn't been working, just know this: it's not the one and only solution. In fact, it ranks pretty low on the most effective solutions. So, but you don't feel bad about moving on. You could still go to support meetings and have because the fellowship is still very important. The accountability is still very important. But if you wait, sometimes it says sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, God will come and take these. Sometimes never, okay? Because I tried forever, the better part of 8 years. So that is one way, and I'm talking about the easiest way for me. That was not the easiest way for me. That was the impossible way for me. But I found that the secret, what I needed, was to separate from my crazy, knowing that there is something solid, something that's me, something, even if it was just 1% of me left, that I thought I was a good person, not really even just a stand-up person, a capable person, a competent person. And I'd proven that with many things in my life, but over time, that was going away. It was slipping away when the crazy was taking over. And so I had to figure out a way to separate from my crazy. You see that awesome animation there? Scissors to separate from this. And one of the approaches for this is very well known, is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's where you talk to a therapist and basically they delve into, you have discussions, they get to know you, and they start to delve into you and figure out, you know, well, the thought process. Let's take a step back and say that in cognitive behavioral therapy is basically that we have in our brains, it's not who we are, But there's a brain, our brain has a whole bunch of distorted thoughts, a whole bunch of distorted emotions that just throws things way out of whack. And working with a cognitive behavioral therapist, you get to start to understand where your brain is throwing things way out of proportion that's leading to my crazy. Now, this might have worked, and I believe statistics say there's improvement 60% of the time over a 6 month period. I was much crazier than that. I did not have 6 months. 1 hour a week with a therapist was nowhere near enough. And my brain was not rational to get to do the work on rational enough because it was so possessed by this need for alcohol to get to the point where I could get work done. So the self-help approach I was using was the AA of 12 steps, which was not going to work at all. And the more rational, the spiritual approach was the AA steps was not working. And the more rational, logical, scientific approach was just too damn slow. And it's really, really hard for a therapist to get into your brain to understand all that's going on. But you know who is uh, the number one expert in the world on what's going on in your brain? You are. I was the number one expert in the world on knowing what's going on in my brain. And this is what leads to my approach, the easiest approach that I've been getting to. And that's the IC solution approach. And this is what I've created over the last 8 years. And here's how we break it down. Okay, what is the IC? The IC, let me explain this diagram here. Rather than saying that, hey, your brain has a bunch of distortions, or in other approaches they say you are your mind, well then, and your brain is trying to throw you out of whack. That's like Deepak Chopra from his books, Super Brain, or you have your higher self and your lower self. But all of these is kind of like still these things are you. Why are these things going out of whack? Well, with the IC solution, we I'm going to tell you about something totally separate that you can, well, how another layout of the brain that you can start to look as this little guy down here is a totally separate thing. And that is because this is the instinctual core, the IC, and it basically what it is, it's a culmination of all of your survival instincts, the things that are embedded in your DNA that have a particular agenda, that want nothing more than to save your life. And they use the subconscious brain, pretty much out of your conscious awareness, uh, to control you. And basically, before you even come online, because when you're born, your conscious brain is hardly developed, and thus your consciousness hasn't spawned out of that yet. And for me, what I consider who I am is my actual consciousness, the thing that knows that I am residing inside my head, and the thing that says, like the thing in a bad B movie that when they say brain swap, all of a sudden you end up in someone else's brain. It's that thing. It's like your awareness put into someone else. So you are not your job, you are not your body, you are not your thoughts. You're just that awareness that knows that you're sitting inside your head. To me, that's what I am. And that is represented by this happy, smiley guy up here, along and I combine that with your conscious brain because the conscious brain is the one that you're able to use. And then we have this massive subconscious brain that's running the show 90% of the time. And that's the brain that your survival instincts plugs directly into. So your survival instincts are using this part of the brain and directly trying to control what you do, trying to control your thoughts and controlling what you do by controlling your thoughts and controlling your emotions. So now, why does this make any sense at all? Why would this instinctual, okay, so it's named the instinctual core, not a separate brain, because we want to start in the IC solution. We want to start to look at this as the IC perspective, where we are this guy up here. We have secondary control over this subconscious brain, but there's something separate that's putting a separate agenda inside your head, plugging in a separate agenda. So it actually is something absolutely separate from you. It's a separate intelligence that happens to be residing inside your head. And when you start to look at it separate, you can start to catch it when it's going off and start to train it, just like it's a puppy, just like it's like you're coaching a kid or training a puppy. And when I started doing that, when I started seeing that voice that's saying, go drink, go drink, go drink, and there was, and I'll break it down all the reasons why it wanted me to drink, but it's going to be different for everyone. But when you separate from this, you start to gain control over it and see that when you're not the only one, it starts to make sense why you have these things inside your head, why you think, why I thought I was a piece of shit, why I wasn't good enough, why I wasn't good enough to talk to those people, why I wasn't funny enough, smart enough, rich enough, and why alcohol was not the way to escape, but for the instinctual core, alcohol was actually the solution. And then I realized that any time I heard those voices, they were a lie, and I could dissect them and figure out and bring them back to why the instinctual core was actually doing that. And how did I do that? Well, over a lot of time, so my initial thoughts that got me to quit drinking was just that everything in my subconscious is full of shit. I no longer am going to be guided by that. But over a lot of time spending doing research in all the different sciences, especially in psychology, neurology, and behavioral economics, I came up with this sort of guide so that we, as non brainiacs, can kind of understand what's going on inside of us. And this user's guide has the instinctual core down here and has you up here. But now the instinctual core is not only based on all the research I did. I was able to break down all the reasons it's panicking, all the reasons why it's trying to save our life into these layers. And you might have seen something similar to this in Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I didn't directly go to that, but after like a year of trying to classify everything, I had ran into Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm like, holy shit, he had done it right there. But he thought because he did not create the separation, not that it's wrong or right, to see the instinctual core as separate from you is a decision. It's not wrong nor right. It's just a perspective. You can have a perspective. A lot of people have different perspectives that are right. It's looking at the same thing from two different angles. So when we start to see this thing as separate, which he did not, he included all our instinctual things as part of who we were. He had it as a hierarchy of needs. But now when we break it up, it's the what he called the deficiency needs. I always that these guys down here were the deficiency needs, but really these are what the instinctual core and our survival instincts mandated. And of course, the first thing is jumping out of the way of the saber-toothed tiger, which does the immediate threat. But then there's the physiological, which is like food, air, water, safety. It's making sure we're on alert of anything that's about to attack us in the distance. So it's kind of different than the immediate attack. Anything that might attack us, making sure we have a place to sleep tonight that's not going to get attacked while we're sleeping, making sure that we have protection from outer tribes, and then belonging. This was a matter of life and death back then. Okay, but I'm not going to get into all of these right now. I'm just saying this user's guide, you can break down everything that was going on. And I've actually made it interactive. So here, this is me. You'll be able to go through this with an experiment called with a user's guide. I'll give you access to called Radar, where you can break down and recognize, and dissect and amend every time that the instinctual core is taking you over. Because so this part, I should step back. This is the activation filter. This is all the inputs that are passing through your sight, your sound, your taste, but not on that internal things, all your thoughts of the future and memories of the past pass through here, and it's going to it sets off alarms that it sees as emergencies. Because back then, in a prehistoric world, there were a lot of things that would get you killed right now, today, overnight, or in the next week or month. But now we don't have all those things. Instead, we have this, but the instinctual core is still searching for the threats. So it's searching out all the ways we could possibly die for the next few decades and starts panicking over those things. And then it sends out its hierarchy. No, this is the hierarchy. It starts to send out its weapons, judgments. Like to me, it was sending out Fear, don't go talk to that person. You're jumping out of the pecking order. And cravings, get that person to love you. And demands, you're not good enough. Judgments, you're not good enough. And demands, uh, run away, escape. Because that's all it's trying to do is just these things on all of these layers: destroy the threat, avoid the threat, and attain the treat. All right. So, and then I'm not going to go through a million examples, but there are literally a million ways to break this down. And everyone's I see is overreacting in different ways. And for me, it was overreacting on almost all of these layers, sending me into a state of panic. And I realized at that time I had been totally hijacked. Okay. But I didn't want to live like that. Once that realization hit me, and we can in our instinctual core investigative meetups, everyone breaks down the way it's affecting them, and you'll get to see other examples, and then you'll get to see, hey, well, I don't need to be run by that anymore. I can start to be run on by my layers. These are the things that are almost completely unique: intrigue, appreciation, engagement, focus, being able to focus on a task, and self-improvement rather than the self-improvement that's forced upon us by the instinctual core, like eat the most delicious things, because back in the good old days, the most delicious things were the things that kept us alive. Today, the most delicious things are the things that killed us. So now we got to work on self-improvement in a different way. Exercise. Back in the good old days, we had to exercise because we had to do so much work just to make sure we weren't going to die that night. And then so we can work on self-improvement in different ways, and then purpose, to be a part of something greater. When we are doing all these things, we are satisfying all these needs in a happier, more satisfactory, but in a more productive way, because you're no longer stuck. Let me throw up happy face. You're no longer stuck being forced, like feeling this stress and pressure to do. All you are doing is getting into one activity, then the next activity, and the next activity, and you can turn anything into a joyous activity. And you're taking part in the human external set of external reactions, becoming so much more productive. And you get what I'm saying? Anyways, so here at the instinctcenter.com, not the instinctcenter.com, you can set up goals to change any part of your life. And I've set these things up to separate. I start whenever you do more than one. I suggest separating from your instinctual core. I'm overcoming my anxiety. My anxiety was no longer social anxiety, which I had to get rid of a long time ago when I stopped drinking, which I did as part of the IC solution when I didn't have the IC goal tracker. But my new anxiety is the anxiety of the camera talking. And I've only been talking to the camera for 35 days. First day I wanted to throw up, and now it feels almost totally natural. Then starting something new, which is launching this platform, overcoming unhealthy nutrition. I haven't eaten anything that I wouldn't consider my form of perfect nutrition, because I've been able to override every time the instinctual core is trying to get me to eat the wrong thing. Start an exercise program. Why wouldn't the instinctual core want you to start an exercise program? Because it wants you sitting on the couch, um, and saving your energy from when you're actually being chased by that lion. And then finally, um, I put overcome alcohol addiction just because I finally got the IC goal tracker started. But I've been doing this in my head ever since it started March 14th of 2017. But I finally, after many years of development, I can't believe all the things I've had to do to create a different solution for the world. But it's taken a while, taken a lot of hard work and courage, and it's finally ready. And I'm ready for people. So you from here you can start doing the radars and roars that I talked about, and you can do them directly from this interactive app where you can take control of the instinctual of the IC users guide. But I recommend just going to the homepage, watching this quick start guide, which will give you a summary of everything, and then join us up in a meeting. That's where we can all talk about it and help each other out. It's like we're all doing the same thing. We're investigating why the instinctual core is messing up in us, so we all have something in common and we can all be there for each other. So, in summary, this method, this IC solution, which I say is the easiest way. It's not scientifically proven that it's the easiest way. It's the easiest way for me. But I think we can start to prove that once I start getting people here on board, trying out this method. I don't want you to quit your therapist. I don't want you to quit your meetings. I want you to start supplementing with this and say, oh my gosh, maybe this is it. This is what can happen. This is what can change my life. All right. Well, that's all I got for this video, but I'll be posting every day. Please like this video so we can help spread the word. Subscribe to the channel. I'm posting new things, new enlightenments, and I'm getting better at this speaking thing. But most importantly, come to the Instinct Center and join me. I'm working by myself at the moment. I've only been marketing for a month, but I know by the end of the year, plan to have 12 months, plan to have 1,000 people working in the investigation meetups. Will involve a whole bunch of other stuff, but it's free. So yeah, why not? You have nothing to lose to try it out. You can get it going in a couple hours. You can start to work it and see if it, and you probably know already if this made sense. Does this make sense to you? Does this make more sense than trying to make this connection with the higher power? For a lot of people, the answer will be no. A lot of people, the answer will be saying, "Oh yeah, let's give it a try." So I look very much, I very much look forward to meeting with you, working with you, and fixing our ICs together. That's all I got. Adios. Okay, now I'm pressing stop. Bye.